Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ringmasters, a brand new show where we interview the top brass of SL Wrestling and get down to the brass tacks on what it takes to play, program, and be the game. My name is Sabrina Ireland, and I have many talents in front as well as behind the cameras. A little bit of a Jane of all trades. But we are here discussing what it's like to be curious about where we've been and excited about where we're going. Today, we have got a very, very special guest. Now, they have been on the scenes for quite some time, and I'm very honored to be the one interviewing you today. So let me introduce to you DJV.
Hey Sabrina, thanks for having me. It's quite interesting to be on this side of the table as opposed to behind it.
Oh, I'll bet. I'll bet. Oh my goodness. So, we are going to ask you a few questions as you have done the last few weeks.
Sounds good.
So, real quick, remind everyone not just who you are, but what Fed that you are currently in.
Absolutely. Hey everybody, my name is DJV. I am the founder and Fed owner of Decibel and Pro Wrestling since 2K22. And yeah, it's a show that takes place every other Thursday at 6 p.m. SLT, usually at our Daw Melee Mall or sometimes at other places too.
All right. That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's jump into it right away, shall we? Now, what did you do in SL before wrestling?
In terms of what I did before SL Wrestling, I was admittedly fairly nomadic. That's I kind of just went around various sims and explored with a smaller group of friends that I used to run with a lot,
um,
and just kind of didn't do a whole lot of major, I guess you could say, institutional things in terms of like community things. Just kind of hung
right.
out and went to places and saw what all the lands that SL had to offer.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of us did that. And then wrestling kind of brought us all together. So I
Mm.
love that. Do you have any personal connections to professional wrestling?
I don't really have any. I don't have any personal connections. I do remember one time before like before I got into wrestling really proper, I did go to a WWE show, or it might have even been WWF at the time. When I was a kid, and that was kind of my first interaction with pro wrestling. Beyond
Mhm.
that, and even coming into SL Pro Wrestling, I wasn't really too involved with anything in terms of pro wrestling at all. The most
Uh,
amount of exposure, I guess you could say, that I had prior to that was the biggest matches of the time, some videos about pro wrestling, and kind of this way the stories were told, and in particular, WrestleMania the arcade game. That was a
yes,
really good game.
it was. Yes, it was. I spent many hours playing that as well. Um, Speaking of SL wrestling, how did you get into it?
So, in terms of that, I remember going through and trying to figure out some places to try to go and check out next with my little group of friends. And
Uh,
on a whim, I just kind of put in wrestling, and I never really thought about it at all. I was very, very vaguely aware that there might be some wrestling because of our exploring, taking us to various SL sports areas. And
uh-huh.
in particular, we went to Chamonix City a couple times, and there were ads for very old wrestling feds that are no longer existing over there for the most part. And it
Right.
was like, wow, this was a thing in SL at one point or another. That's pretty neat. We didn't really think about how it was going to go through, but then I realized, oh, there's a lot of wrestling. This is still a thing. What does this look like? I was like genuinely curious. And eventually I managed to catch a show of Kingdom of Wrestling. And that was probably one of the biggest factors of kind of getting into SL wrestling, because my understanding of what SL was kind of capable of changed dramatically when I saw people basically doing all these wild animations that I never thought possible. They were interacting with each other. Like, that was the big thing. It wasn't necessarily that the animations were playing, it was that they were actually having tangible effects on the other people that they were wrestling with. And that just kind of put the stars in my eyes, especially like there was a few wrestlers there that were just absolutely incredible for one reason or another, in particular like with stories and stuff. And
Ah,
that it was one of those things where I wanted to do that, but back in the day that was still like fairly there was it was all human back in the day for KOW. And yeah, that kind of led me to seeking if there were any furry options, and really there was only one
right,
that was
right.
running at the time. But yeah, that was kind of where I eventually found and started attending FWF shows, Furry Wrestling Federation. Eventually, there was a call put out in the fan chat for a commentator, and then that's how I got into getting into the whole community as a whole, just answering
Oh,
that call for
wow.
commentator, and Rocco putting me on like that week.
Talk about throwing you right in, huh?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It was made my head spin. I'm not gonna lie.
I think that happens to everyone.
hmm And it it was a it kind of painted kind of like uh it kind of painted the rest of that experience even today. It's on some occasions, but it's just like it's so
Mhm.
fun. It's so fun to just be like, oh, we're doing this now, I guess.
Yeah, you have to go with the flow with it sometimes.
Exactly.
So, what do you think are your greatest strengths and weaknesses being a wrestling fed owner?
Ooh, that is a good one. Uh, in terms of my greatest weaknesses, I'll just start there. We'll start low and end high, hopefully. uh, my my greatest weaknesses tend to be I've I usually know what I want, and even if I don't exactly know how I can express that, I usually try to. And there are times where that is to the detriment of the final product, so to speak.
Mhm.
And I tend, because I know exactly what I'm trying to figure out and trying to find like trying to execute. This is something I'm really trying to pull back from and try to open up to more people and trying to write down all my stuff. But
Uh-huh.
I'll usually just bowl ahead and be like, okay, I need this, this, and this, and I'm just going to have to get all these. And it's I'm doing my best to prevent myself from getting too deep into that and trying to open up more to let creative do this, or let bookers do this, and kind of trust in the wrestlers to be able to do what I'm hoping to kind of see in the ring, I guess. And my greatest strengths, uh, I try to I try to make sure that everybody is super chill, having a good time,
Hmm.
and I try my best to make sure they don't have to worry about anything. And I feel like that kind of speaks for itself I when I see Dawes roster
Uh-huh.
doesn't ever really have too much in the way of people leaving because they're mad. They will often be they will often, if we have any, they will leave because they're looking to just retire.
Right.
And we yeah, they
That's
and
great.
that's mostly because a couple of the people who helped us early on had had been helping us, have been with us for a good while in other locations, and then yeah, kind of utilizing the opportunity, going out on a high note, so to speak. And
Hmm.
I'm so happy that they've chosen Daw to be kind of that final place for now.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's such an honor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now let's switch gears for a moment. Talking about DAW. How did it get started? What are the origins?
So in terms of that, it's it kind of stems from me wanting to try different things with SLPW. Prior to DAW, uh, I was the director, showrunner, creator of a show called FWF Nocturnal, and later that became UFW Nocturnal. And eventually, I stepped back from UFW and went to go kind of see what kind of weirdness I could get up to. Kind of working within the confines of SLPW to tell different stories and
Mhm.
kind of break the mold in terms of uh, seeing what could be told beyond the squared circle.
Oh,
And
okay.
in particular, I wanted to pull from more influences that were had a greater impact on my life, which were fighting games. I used to be I never really got into like big tournaments or anything, but I always enjoyed the competitive nature of fighting games.
Yeah.
And early on, the idea for DAW's most like it's one of its biggest unique innovations. Well, I guess I should say one of its biggest innovations was that it has 2 out of 3 falls as standard. And the idea is that you're basically having free tiny matches, or like 2 or 3 tiny matches as opposed to
Mhm.
one giant match. Ideally, this means that they're going to be higher octane matches with more action going on in them on the whole. Uh, Something akin to a fighting game. And it's always been interesting to kind of go into that and kind of recontextualize how you wrestle and how you card based around that as opposed to a free spot card. And yeah, it basically, to come back around to the initial question, Daw, is effectively what can we do to kind of change and experiment and innovate in the SL wrestling space.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's wow. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So, what are some of the most memorable moments to you in your Fed's history?
In terms of memorable Fed moments, um, there's a couple of different ones that I could pull from. The one of the big ones was when we had, oh Lord, which one was that? It was either the end of season 1 or the end of season 2. I'm pretty sure it's the end of season 1, and there was a battle against. It was a tag battle, if I remember correctly, and it was, I believe, Red Empress and Falami uh versus Sasha Winters and Vivienne. and it was an elimination tag battle. So if one person got eliminated, they were removed from the match. But that doesn't mean that the team lost.
Right.
And it was also an overdrive mix, so no DQs.
Oh, nice.
And over the course of the season, Red Empress and Valami had been kind of terrorizing the roster. And in that battle, because it was no DQ, it will basically everybody that they had wronged up to that point came out and assisted Sasha in trying to beat them, and then they ran back out, and it was like three or four additional people kind of running in, like an assist in a Marvel versus Capcom game or something like that, and then running back out. It was wild to see. It was super fun.
I
Uh,
bet.
Beyond that, charity shows are always a big thing.
Mhm.
I'll never forget when we had Sci-Fi Cross Fantasy. That was one of the first times where we really attempted a major production on the scale of something like other feds and stuff.
Mhm.
And we had a team of, I believe, something like 12 or 13 total. And we we really like knocked it out of the park. I felt we did really well for the charity, really well for the event, and
Mhm.
through all sorts of issues that we had, it still came out and was a really fun and awesome show. Uh,
Yeah, that's been my experience.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Charity shows are always super memorable as well because we pull out all the stops to try to make them as fun and as
Mhm.
immersive as we can.
Yeah. Yeah, I we do that all the time, and fans just love it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So what does the calendar hold for your Fed? Any big events you're excited about?
So our season finale for season 3, Daw Amplify Realize, is going to be coming up. We just got done with. At the time of recording, we just got done with an episode of Daw Amplify, the lead into this, last night, and here on December 12th, I believe it is. Yes, we are going to be having our season finale of this season. And so we're all looking forward to that. We are looking forward to our charity calendar coming into next year as well. And we got a few things that we've got planning that are it's a little bit of a mix of something old, something new, something, something
Mhm.
something blue.
Yeah. So you're getting married? I'm confused.
Yeah. Well, it's we're doing a we're bringing back something from we're bringing back something in on charity
Mhm.
show for next year, and then we've got a whole slate of really cool and hopefully innovative things that
Oh, that's
we're
awesome. I can't wait.
yeah that we're looking forward to bringing to these events in the near future.
That's awesome. Um, where can people find information about your Fed and the wrestlers?
So in terms of that, we do have a website, DAWSL, that's DAWSL dot neocities dot org, yeah. And that's our primary site. Admittedly, it is a site that I do my best to try to keep updated with at least the roster. There are
Uh-huh.
a couple of pages that are sadly a little less up to date than I would like, but I that site is developed using raw HTML, so it's it's a little bit of a struggle whenever I try to update it. Um,
I understand completely.
we also have social media with we have our Blue Sky, which is Let me double check that real quick because I'm still getting used to how they format their handles and stuff. uh,
Uh-huh.
we have at decibelsl.bsky.social. That's where you can find us on Blue Sky. We are also, uh, well, for the time being, still on X, but that's going to be depreciated here at the start of the next month. So for now, you can find us at Decibel XL on X, and then yeah, we also have fan groups in World. I do my best to try to maintain active calendars on all of these pages, and in World as well.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's where we usually have our event announcements and the like. And yeah,
Okay, cool. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad people are able to find information about it, you
heck
know?
yeah,
And
heck yeah.
what is your Fed's approach to booking?
In terms of the way that we book our shows, early on, because DAW seasons are typically 8 episodes, and
Ah,
eight because we run every other Thursday, like we're a bi-weekly show. That tends to be months and months and months of,
yeah, it
of
takes a little
shows,
while.
and and as a result of this, we initially tried to do all 8 shows at the same time, so we can kind of plot the start, the middle, and the end of all these arcs at the same
Right.
time. And early on, I was the only one that was doing booking, and I'm still the primary booker, but I'm hopefully for the next year, I've got a couple of additional people that are helping me out, and I'm very grateful for that because
Oh, yeah.
yeah, booking
I'll
is
bet.
uh booking is a heck of a thing when you're only having to worry about like a few weeks in advance.
Yeah.
Having to deal with months was a challenge that I wasn't expecting was going to be an absolute titan by myself, and I cut that down to just booking twice in a season. So I book 4 episodes before the start of the season, and then 4 episodes in the middle of the season, and then just kind
Uh-huh.
of go from there. Make adjustments on the fly as necessary, and kind of trying to hope that everybody has something to do. Everybody has nice character arcs. They're all contributing to each other's stories.
Uh-huh.
By my own admission, admittedly, I I'm not the greatest at that, but I try, and I try to gain more experience with every season to try to make this better and better as time goes
Mhm.
on.
Well, that's good. That's good. And I'm sure the roster appreciate it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So, what would you say are your booking philosophies for character development?
In terms of something like that, it depends on the character. If they're intended to kind of be kind of a big bad, I usually
Hmm.
try to have them be as be as kind of maybe not meddlesome, but kind of showcase their villainy a little bit, at least once an episode,
Yeah.
and kind of drive that forward. Conversely, on the heroic side, I kind of try to showcase people, trying to fight against that best they can, or in some cases where the villains need to, they need to showcase their own strength and power, kind of
Yeah.
going, going over the heroes from time to time. Uh, in terms of storylines that are kind of how should I say? In terms of the overall, let me try that again.
Okay.
In terms of overall storylines, I try to have interweaving and trying to have natural like bumping into each other, going out, bumping in, going out, kind of trying to have it all weave together to make something that is really interesting and engaging,
Yeah.
and trying to foster natural rivalries and natural uh enemy friend dynamics, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
For the most extreme portions of the roster.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. How do you foster a positive and productive work environment for your team and wrestlers?
In terms of that, yeah, it's basically just making sure that everybody doesn't have anything to worry about. That's kind of been my philosophy even when I was first starting out. Is basically it is my job to worry, not yours.
Right, right.
So I will often if somebody has to call out for one reason or another, it's pretty typical of me to kind of fill in that role so that people are still able to wrestle, people are still able to have their fun, because then at the end of the day, that's what we're all here for, having fun
Exactly.
with friends that are in this all we're all in this for the same purpose, and that's to
Hmm.
wrestle. And and so far it seems to have been working pretty well. Everybody's pretty happy and chill. Everybody knows that if they have any issues, or if they want to bring any concerns or any suggestions or anything, my door is always open, and I will do my best to make sure that they're accommodated, and they've got everything taken care of pretty much.
Hmm. That's awesome. Can you share an example of a time when you had to make a tough decision that significantly impacted your wrestling federation?
In terms of something like that, there was a period where we used to be relatively independent from somebody that we like from a sim that we used to have road shows at.
Uh,
And the we found out about a particular I guess you could say a particular audience cap where we used to be.
uh,
And we found this out vicariously because another Fed that we share a lot of DNA with, and kind
mhm.
of share a common bond with. We're renting from the same people, and
Oh,
they bumped up against that audience cap, and
uh.
so now it's like, oh, we gotta move like soon.
Yeah.
And we reached out to this sponsor because they were the earliest sponsor that we had, and always been good to us. So they kind of had the right of first refusal, so to speak, and well, they wanted to take us in,
Right.
and yeah, thankfully they managed to swoop in and give us a really cool place, and we're there now, and
It's cool.
we didn't have much in the way of too much strife in terms of copying things over, like
Uh-huh.
just putting things over to the new place. But it was something. If I remember correctly, I think we had to delay a week potentially
Oh.
to
Well,
kind
I
of get it
mean,
all sorted
that's
out.
not too bad.
Yeah, it's not bad in the grand scheme of things, but yeah, that's about the biggest thing where it was basically like, oh, this is a significant impacting thing.
Yeah.
There haven't really been, thankfully, fingers crossed we don't have to deal with too many of these where tough decisions beyond that uh that would significantly impact our Fed.
Yeah.
Yeah, thankfully we've been blessed to not have to worry about that too much.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Now, do you have any tips for new Fed owners on building and maintaining a fan base and roster?
In terms of something like that, uh, make sure that you're always upfront about if you've got any delays coming up, when they can find your next shows. Make sure that kind of make sure that they know when you're going to be there. And that
Yes.
way that gives them the additional benefit of knowing when you're like giving them something to look forward to, I guess you could say.
Right, right, right.
Beyond that, uh make sure you're reasonably active on like your Fed accounts and stuff in terms of just posting your schedules, posting when your
Hmm.
shows are going to be. And I think I'm basically just kind of rolling the same wheel because it's helped us a lot.
Right.
And yeah, just any potentially negative stuff, don't stress about it. Just kind of block and move on if they're giving you a lot of strife.
Yeah,
don't
definitely.
don't give
That
trolls
block
the time of
button is
day.
very handy.
Exactly. Don't give trolls the time of day.
Exactly, exactly. Now, what do you consider to be keys to successful marketing and promotion of your wrestling Fed?
In terms of something like that, networking is often a big one.
Mm,
Um, Again, being active on social media, just maintaining a presence to show that you're there and alive and vibrant,
right.
and being able to kind of have our road shows is a really big thing because that reaches out to audiences that may not otherwise have even been aware that not only did you exist, but wrestling in Second Life existed.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's something where for example, if we go to a new place and it's to a club or an event that no one there would have seen SL wrestling before, and you just put the stars in their eyes, that's always a fantastic feeling.
Oh, it
Like
is.
it's kind of it's kind of to kind of pull a little more explicitly from Jukebox Hero. Getting the stars in your eyes, listening to a concert from outside of the arena, getting your guitar, and then years later, you're on stage, and
Uh-huh.
you're giving the stars in the eyes to the people that are just not aware of what this was, but not aware that this was a thing, and
Right.
now they're excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's how I got into it. How do you gather feedback from fans?
Every At the end of every show, we'll have a meet and greet, and if anybody has any concerns or criticisms or anything, they're always able to kind of reach out to me there and say, hey, XYZ, ABC,
Hmm.
and everything there. Anybody who anybody who knows me knows that I'm always trying to get feedback from people, trying to improve, and innovate better. And there are times where I've reached out to people who I wanted to get their opinion on to try to figure out, okay, how can we improve the show? How can we
Right.
improve kind of run times? What would you be interested in seeing in terms of trying to what would you be interested in seeing to make the show better for you? And I'll reach out to a couple of different people, every once in a while and kind of try to figure out where the wind's blowing
Uh-huh.
and seeing about like what can we add to that? What can we do to uh sorry about that.
You're fine. You're fine.
let me take that back a little bit. Um, yeah, I'm basically just trying to reach out to people and kind of every once in a while poke people's brains, see which way the wind's blowing, and taking what I gather into account to try to improve the show for everyone involved.
Sounds great. What is your vision for the future of your Fed?
The vision for the future of my Fed. I think I think I would want to really kind of get deeper into showcasing everybody's talents
Hmm.
and kind of showcasing them in new and interesting ways that no other Fed could potentially do. And it kind of warps back around to the desire to continue innovating in the space. And I
Yeah.
think in the next year or two, assuming everything goes well, we're going to be doing some crazy things that people would not have considered that are just going to be awesome.
Mhm.
And I don't know about paradigm shifting, but things that people wouldn't have considered otherwise.
Right. Oh my. Okay, cool. I'm excited to see that. So, all things must end sometime. What legacy do you hope to leave as the owner of your Fed?
I hope that by the end of Decibel Amphro Wrestling's run, it will have been known as a place that was always welcoming and chill,
Mhm.
and everyone was happy there. And it, through its works, innovated and changed the space of SL wrestling for the better.
Mhm. Right on. Do you have any predictions or hopes for the future of SL Wrestling?
In terms of predictions and hopes, that's a really tricky thing to kind of try to predict that far in the future.
Yeah.
There's so many things that can be done in SL wrestling that even with the technology that we have and the animators that we have, there's always new things that
Uh,
people don't really think about that are even now coming out and just changing the dynamic of what's possible. Kind of shout out Morgan Jones with his now cell WrestleCore HUD. That HUD has so much in it that has fundamentally changed the way that I and a few other people, at least in Dahl, have
uh,
tackled the manner of selling in SL wrestling. And it's something that you don't really think about. And then you use something like this and you realize you can't really go back. This is the new standard. And I hope to see in the next like 5 years, things are always changing. 5 years, I hope there's going to be several more standard shifts and several more paradigm shifts in the same way that something like the now cell HUD, something like Prime Optimus, things
right.
that you don't even know you want until you get them and you
Uh-huh.
realize how could you like you've questioned yourself how you lived so long and wrestled so long without using stuff like this. The tech of SL wrestling is so fun to watch evolve in real time. But in terms of beyond the tech, I hope that SL wrestling uh, I hope that SL wrestling looks at itself and begins to ask itself not what asks itself what the definition of SL wrestling is. Where can you do wrestling? How can you do wrestling? What stories can you tell when you remove certain factors or even bring in additional factors? Kind of
Right.
play around with the very idea of what it means to wrestle in Second Life. And
Absolutely.
I think we're gonna see that in the next 5 to 10 years.
I think so. I agree. Yeah. We're going to see a lot of changes in the next few years, and it's going to be amazing. I
Oh,
can't wait.
absolutely.
I can't wait. Well, thank you, DJV, so much for taking the time to do this interview with me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Thank you for
I
having
want to
me.
thank PW as well for giving me the opportunity to not just interview you, but to be a part of this amazing Ringmaster series.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
it has been a blast working with you and interviewing you.
It's been a blast working with you as well.
Thank you. All right, let me see here. Do you have any pluggables?
Yeah. You can find my Fed Decibel Ampho Wrestling. We do shows every other Thursday, 6 p.m. SLT. Uh, you can also find me at other places as well, namely Furry Wrestling Federation. That's another Fed that I assist with. That's every other Monday at 7 p.m. SLT or 7:15 p.m. SLT. I should say that's a recent change. Still getting used to that. Then I also assist over at Furry Commission of Wrestling, which is every other Saturday at 7 p.m. SLT. That's not HUD wrestling though, but it's kind of philosophically adjacent, very similar to it.
Okay, okay. Well, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and follow us on your favorite social media platform. And we will see you next season. So, for now, I'm Sabrina Ireland saying toodles.